started. Thank you everyone for being here. We're really excited to really hear from Shai and David and their perspectives on how experiential learning inspires innovation for students. And so I have gone through the experience myself. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, and then I have some questions lined up to have a discussion with David and Shai, but very excited to have everyone here, and let's hop right in. So feel free to use the chat to say hello and introduce yourself. You can kind of put in your name, your organization, where you're calling from, and what you're hoping to learn. We have Ashray, our marketing intern, who will be going through the chat and facilitating any questions that are coming in. And also the session is being recorded, so I wanted to let everybody know. We'll distribute it after, and it'll also be posted on our website for everyone to review. So to get right into it, I'll allow David and Shai to introduce themselves first, and then I'll introduce myself, and we'll go from there. So David, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, happy to. My name's David Kirsch. I'm a professor at the University of Maryland, the Smith School of Business, and I've been teaching a course on strategic growth for emerging firms, probably for a very long time. And in that course, we've used experiential learning in that course increasingly over the last few years, and we're very delighted to be able to work with CapSource and Shai at Hungry a couple years ago, and happy to share our experience today.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Shai, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, quick intro. I'm a Washington, D.C. entrepreneur. Went to James Madison University. Very grateful to have been connected with David and Jordan to be able to get connected with students like yourselves and be able to help out and share my experiences. And connect with the program to be able to bring students in and help us out. Believe students and the youth are really the key for entrepreneurship and being able to recruit great talent. So it's a great program. I have two startups. One's a company called LiveSafe. It's a crime reporting mobile app. I was held up at gunpoint living in Capitol Hill. Came up with the safety app. Worked on that for a good 6 years. Just sold that business 7 months ago. So very grateful to have an exit. And then second company is a company called Hungry. It's a food marketplace. Chefs can cook on our platform and we deliver their food. Pretty cool. We've got some exciting celebrity investors. Jay-Z, the rapper, is an investor. The singer Usher is an investor. The actor comedian Kevin Hart is also an investor. We also have a bunch of food gurus like the founder of Whole Foods on our board and founder of Honest Tea. But yeah, that's a little bit of background.
Awesome. Thanks, Shai. And I am Ankush. I'm a co-founder here at CapSource and currently lead our product team. I am going to talk a little bit about my story and how I found out about CapSource, and that's directly through working with Shai and David as part of my coursework at UMD in David's growth strategy course. So excited to tell you all about that, and let's hop right into it. So here's a little overview. Feel free to read through this, but I'm going to tell you my story. I went to the University of Maryland, and in my senior year, I actually was in this course, David's course called Growth Strategies, and I really didn't know what it was going to be about until I got there. And it was a very interesting and unique experience. The course was actually paired with a company. The company happened to be Hungry, and our course was split up into different groups, and we all worked cross-functionally on various projects for Hungry. I was actually part of the innovation team, and our group was tasked with coming up with innovative ideas for Hungry to kind of expand their business in the DC area and really increase their reach and adoption of their platform to find new chefs, new customers, and new ways of doing things. We were able to have a lot of close interaction with the company. Shai came in himself. They also had their chief strategy officer come in, and it was a really unique experience, something that I hadn't really gone through in my 4 years of being at Maryland. And so, after going through the experience, we presented our work to Shai and the leadership team. And I approached Shai, and he really liked kind of what I was doing. And I ended up finding an internship with Hungry, which was honestly an incredible experience. And I was there for a little while, and I started thinking, well, how did this whole thing happen? And I reached back out to David and said, well, how did this company get connected with this class? That's never happened in my 4 years of being here. And he directed me to Jordan Levy, and Jordan had just started to pilot this program where companies are actually integrating projects into coursework. And I thought that was a really cool idea. It really allowed me to experience the startup world and apply kind of what I was learning as part of my innovation courses and lean startup methodology into actual applicable work for a company that has real impact. And I think that it's very meaningful to be able to actually apply what you're learning theoretically in the courses. And David did an excellent job of really backing up what we were learning with applying it to the projects that we were working on. And so I'll kind of pause there, and I want to kind of get into the discussion, but wanted to give you my story of how we got here today. Just quickly, I wanted to highlight kind of how this experience can be shown on a LinkedIn profile and really highlighted for experience purposes. I think that there's a huge gap between going to university, graduating, and then finding a job. And there's this gray area where you need a lot of experience to do it, but how are you supposed to get experience for an entry-level job? And I think by going through the process of experiential learning through project-based engagements, we're able to provide that experience to students that aren't necessarily able to show off what they've learned and what they can do and the skills that they have. So very grateful for the opportunity and very excited to talk a little bit about how it came to fruition. All right, David, so the first question's for you. I want to kind of understand a little bit about what the motivating factors were for coordinating a live case engagement like this. And just to remind everyone, a live case engagement is groups working kind of cross-functionally within a class on multiple projects, kind of like I explained earlier. So, David, what were some of those motivating factors for you?
Well, it's interesting. Thinking about this, I actually was first exposed to this approach when I was teaching at UCLA in the late '90s, and there we had a massive living case that we did in our strategy course, where we actually, and this was at the run through the dean's office where we worked. We had all 335 first-year MBA students work on a living case with, the first year was the Lincoln Mercury division of Ford Motor Company. Talk about a challenge. And then the second year was we worked on a living case with Apple. And this was in the kind of mid to late 90s, and Apple was kind of on the rocks. This was a strategic renewal time for Apple. So I had in my head this idea that we could do this, that the living case could be done. And I mean, there was a lot of overhead, and this is not something that you and Jordan and CapSource could have taken on. You needed a whole team of people to make this work at that scale. But so I knew that we could do a living case. I had seen how a living case could benefit the students and how it could be kind of integrated into coursework. In that case, in a traditional strategy setting. So I knew we could do it. And I'd been working at different models of it. And I was just, some years we would do it where each team would work with a different company, or they're kind of, and I think what was very fortunate was that year, I think our Office of Teaching and Learning was kind of looking for partners, and they encountered Jordan, and Jordan had known about Shai. I mean, it just sort of all came together. But I think the big picture is that it just brings the learning to life. So you just can't do this. It's so much more interesting and engaging when it's just not a book stuff or some Harvard case. Like that Harvard case just is such a it was such a great innovation when they did it, 100 years ago, but it just feels so stale now. And I think this experience is so much more energizing, so much stickier. And just to your point, it fits on, you can put it on your resume. You can tell a story about it to yourself and to future employers. So I just think it's so much more meaningful. Like, you can't put "I did the Walmart case" on your LinkedIn profile. It just doesn't. It's not meaningful.
Right.
So anyway, I think those are the kinds of issues where I just see enormous opportunity to kind of make this integration and help students have these kinds of experiences, and in the process help companies solve problems.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I guess, what type of feedback do you receive from students that actually go through these engagements kind of afterwards? Because I know when I went through it, it was brand new to me, and I had no idea that things like this existed. So I'm curious what type of feedback you're hearing from students compared to other courses that they're taking.
Well, I'd say in general, the feedback is very positive. It's not to say there are not problems. And I think generally, if you want me to kind of bucket the problems, I could try. I'm not sure if we want to do that in a 30-minute seminar, but there are challenges. It's not for everybody. It's not for every, it takes a company that's open to it. Mm-hmm. So, Shai, to his credit, was like, gave me his a cell phone and said, call me, but don't call me in the middle of the day. Call me when I'm driving home, because that's when I'm, usually have a little free time. And so, the student teams, we meet in my office, we find the time that he was free. So, you have to kind of work out these kind of kinks. It's not something you just, and each engagement has its own kind of cadence and rhythm and structure that you need to work through. But I think on the whole, students like it if the faculty member and the kind of partner company are kind of able to work together and give them a useful experience.
Yeah. And I think, that definitely lends itself to Shai and his team being such great project champions and willing to provide actual meaningful work for the students to do. And I think that impact was definitely realized through the projects that we went through. And I know there were several projects that Shai and his team kind of put forward, strategic challenges that Hungry needed solved and needed ideas on. So I want to throw it over to Shai next and understand a little bit more about what the value of working with these students are from a kind of startup business perspective, because I know there's a lot of challenges, a lot of pivoting, and a lot of nuance that goes on in startups. So Shai, let's throw it over to you and see kind of what your opinion is there.
Yeah, there's a tremendous value with working with young minds. Young people have very innovative minds. They're not rigid in their thinking. They're not always boxed into here's the way things should be. So in a startup, it is critical to have very innovative minds. And as you mentioned, Ankush, when you came on, we were part of the innovation team. We knew very little about Hungry, but we knew because you were fresh out of college, you would have some great perspectives. And a lot of companies understand that, and they are at the job fairs on college campuses to recruit these students. So thankfully, I was able to tap into that and understand that value. And, we've recruited a lot of George Mason students, a lot of Virginia Tech students, James Madison University students, a lot of DMV University alumni are now Hungry employees. But there's just tremendous value in working with students because of that aspect. Having that diversity of thought and innovative thinking is invaluable. And especially when you're on the tech side. In a tech company, you're always coming up with new features and new apps to stay ahead of the curve, to be able to accomplish more, to create a more efficient business. With Hungry, we have 8 different apps creating our tech platform where individuals and companies can order from us. We manage the delivery, we manage the chef orders. There's a lot of thinking and ideas that need to come to make all that happen. Leveraging students is a great way for startups to progress. In a startup, you have a lot of projects that need to get done. and there's not enough people to get it done. So when you can tap into a program like what Jordan and Ankush have come up with, it could be incredible in progressing the business with its early projects. And then obviously when the business gets really big and has many different divisions, that makes it really easy to come up with compelling projects and meaningful work for students as well.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And, kind of going off of that, can you talk a little bit about the actual outcomes and impacts of working with these students? Are there things that you've actually implemented into your business because of the ideas that they've come up with? Are there different strategies that you've taken or pivots that you've done because of the ideas that come out of these engagements? And if there's any specific ones that come to mind, feel free to give some examples. That would be awesome.
Yeah, of course. We wouldn't be doing it if we weren't getting actual, positive outcomes, actual innovative ideas, actual features that go to use and go live in our product. I can't remember exactly what some of the projects were that you were working on because it's been a while, Ankush, but I know some of that stuff went live. I think there's stuff around food preference profile that you were helping us with, and that's an important part of our business now. We want to be able to understand a company's food profile, understand do they like chicken, do they like spicy food, what kind of cuisine type do they like? They like Italian, and then be able to generate different food menus based on those food preferences and use our technology to do that. That came from working with students and students knowing that how important it is to know what goes into your food and those ingredients. So again, it's that kind of thinking that's very useful. Students typically know what the trends are or what the new hot sectors are. And it's a very exciting time that we're living in. There's cryptocurrency, it's drones, it's self-driving cars, automated cars. There's AI. It's a very exciting time, and these ideas are all coming from a very young population. And again, being able to tap students that are hungry, that are looking for a new career, a new industry to get into, that are bred a different way. The new generation. It's a great workforce, a great talent source to tap into. And of course, we would only be doing it if we were actually getting results and actually getting ideas. And for a student, that's very powerful. To be a small fish in a big company, it's very hard to get those kind of experiences. But when you work for a startup, it can be incredible the kind of experiences you get with clients, different industries, being able to interface with the CEO, with VPs and leaders in the company with very little hierarchy. So it could be very invaluable for a student or a young person to be able to join a company in an intern fashion or on a learn by basis kind of fashion. It's not always about the money, but just getting that kind of exposure and that that experience is huge. I mean, look what's happened to Ankush. You're a star now.
Thanks, Shai. And no pun intended on finding hungry students for hungry, right? Awesome. So I appreciate that. And I think, just going through these experiences is a very different way to learn. And I think it instills kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, which kind of takes me to my next point. And this question is kind of for both of you, especially Shai, because you introduced yourself as a DC entrepreneur. And I think, it's not really about thinking you're just an entrepreneur, it's living it and being it and actually taking action and doing things, which I know that you really do. So we'll start with you, David, and then move to Shai. But I know that not every student wants or needs to strive to be an entrepreneur, but do you think that every student should have an entrepreneurial mindset?
Well, I think whether they should or not, they need to be able to understand what's happening, kind of what entrepreneurship is. And so I think this is, I always say when you're a student is when you can afford to take some entrepreneurial risk. What's the cost of failure in a classroom? Maybe you get a B instead of an A. That's trivial compared to the risk of failure out in the world. So I think it, in my experience, I think some students come in and say, I'm scared of entrepreneurship. And what better way to kind of overcome some of that reticence, of that hesitancy, help them learn about it. Many students may discover that entrepreneurship is not for them. But just as Shai was discussing, you can be venture labor. You can be those early hires. You can still work at growing firms and be part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in ways that can be very beneficial to your career.
Yeah. And I think, I went through entrepreneurship classes when I was at the University of Maryland, and learning about the theory of entrepreneurship almost confused me more about it than when I went through the experience with working with Hungry. And at that point, I really learned, I was like, wow, this is entrepreneurship. I love this. This is so cool, where you can actually build something and actually make a difference by coming up with new ideas and implementing them and bringing them to the world. And I think that's just magical and really awesome. And so I appreciate that, David. Shai, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, on that similar point, I didn't know what organizational behavior was when I was learning in business school, learning about, what that meant. And I was just confused by it until I, joined my startup or was part of a startup while I was in college, and then realized that meant culture, how you set up your team and what are the core values that you, aspire to, and that's how you attract talent. So it's very important to be a part of a startup, just to gain that kind of experience, to learn all the different things there are about business. But yeah, back to your point, you don't have to be an entrepreneur per se. Most of us are not entrepreneurs, but the entrepreneur mind is something that we all does exist in all of us. It just takes a couple of things to get it triggered and going. But there's great fulfillment in creating something or building something. You feel really good if you're making a piece of music or painting or creating anything. It feels so good. So there's something about it that's just human nature. And of course, there's a lot of that entrepreneurial thinking that's necessary in every company. Every company needs innovation and progress. And you need to be able to think outside the box. You need to be innovative. The entrepreneur also is someone who just works hard, understands that hard work, has payoff. Entrepreneur is also someone who's self-managed, doesn't need to be micromanaged. They can, they're a self-starter. They can get their day going. They have a to-do list and knock it out. But yeah, the mindset is really important. You can just study other entrepreneurs to understand what that mindset is. But again, you don't have to start your own company. It's a lot of hard work to start your own company. It's worth trying, but having that entrepreneurial spirit or that mindset is exactly what the goal should be. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Awesome. Thanks, Shai. And I strive to have an entrepreneurial mindset like you. So appreciate that. Finally, David, I know we have several students that have joined today, and one of the things that I wanted to kind of discuss is how do you assess contributions to these engagements by the students? How is that kind of, there's no exams, there's no papers per se, but they're actually doing real work that's having impact at the company. So how do you assess that in really a non-traditional way of learning?
Yeah, it's a great question. I just kind of, my short answer is I just lean into the uncertainty and trust that we're going to figure it out. But I think the longer answer is that there's still a lot of process involved, and we can kind of look at you can tell when people are doing good research versus just throwing things up on the internet. You can tell when a team is working well together because you can see their dynamic and you can ask them and do some peer assessment. You can see when they're using the theories and frameworks that we're studying in the class and that they're being introduced to. So it's not just go off and, you're not just outsourcing staff to somebody. You can see the engagement. So I think those kind of process things are the things you can evaluate as an instructor. And I always tried to get feedback from our partner. So I would ask Shai, like, what do you think of that idea? But if Shai thought it was a bad idea, but I thought they'd done a great job arguing for it, I thought it was still, that's what matters in terms of the process. If I thought it was a great idea, and Shai thought it was a terrible idea, or, I thought like in the end, it's the faculty that makes the decision and evaluates the student. But obviously we want to kind of listen to our partner. We don't want it, you should do this. No, that's not how it works. But, so we usually kind of come to an agreement. And I think in the case working with Shai, that almost all the teams were really engaged, and not every idea could be pursued, but you could really see the level of engagement and the quality of the integration that went into that contribution.
Yeah, and beyond experiential learning, we've really leaned into experiential hiring. So really quickly, Shai, I'm interested how you kind of evaluate these students, because it really is a two-way street, like David mentioned, right? It's the students being evaluated by the academic institution and also by the company, but then also the students evaluating the company for kind of fit for a role. And so I'm curious how you kind of evaluate students that go through these engagements and how you pick out the good ones to come onto your team.
Yeah, it goes back to being entrepreneurial. I really value students who are entrepreneurial. Someone who's a self-starter that I don't have to give too much direction to, that's, can take the direction given in the classroom, plus kind of the overview of the project, and be able to just get it done. Obviously get feedback along the way, so it's an interactive and engaging and useful process for the student. But, I want someone that can just get it done, do the research, get feedback, make it better, iterate, create something better, iterate again, make it better, and then have a good, final outcome. But, again, looking for someone who's entrepreneurial, someone that's not needy, someone that's not emailing me every 5 minutes, asking me a question, someone that just can, tackle the task at hand. What's the mission? We're looking to grow Hungary into 4 new cities, go figure out what the top 4 cities should be, that kind of thing.
Awesome. And I remember going through that exercise when I was there. So very, very interesting work, and just honestly awesome to engage with real startups that are looking to grow so quickly. So definitely appreciate that. I know we're coming up on time here, so we can look to wrap up now. Here's some slides about kind of experiential hiring and how we kind of look at our framework as from start to end of the experience, and all of the things that are coming out of it as far as outcomes are concerned for the students and for the companies and the stakeholders involved. So I'll look to wrap this up here. If anyone has any questions or would like to contact either David or Shai or the CapSource team, feel free to kind of send us an email. We also have resources available on our website for academic partners, industry partners, students, and grads. For students, please go out and apply for some of our internship opportunities. Right now, we're running one with Porterio Solutions for this summer. So very excited about that. And we thank you for being here today. Appreciate everyone's time, especially you, Shai and David. So thank you.
A pleasure. Happy.
Yeah, nice to see everybody, and good luck. And let me know how I can be helpful. Happy to be a resource to others going forward.
Awesome.
Thanks so much,
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.